forward. Rick Manning with you, joined now by Indians general manager Chris Antonetti, who's had a lot on his plate here in the last 24 hours or so. And as you expressed to the media, and I thought you were very sincere, this is not something you ever look forward to when you have to let a manager go, especially a guy that was your guy, your hire. But obviously this was a decision you felt like now was the time. Explain to the fans, because I've been asked a million times already, why now? Why with 6 games to go in the year?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, Matt, as you said, it's an awful thing to have to do. I care a great deal about Manny as a guy. He worked tirelessly to try to help us win and create a winning environment. Unfortunately, we weren't able to play as we hoped and expected. But in terms of why we did it now, there were a couple of reasons. One, we just got to that point and made the decision, and it's something that I wanted to inform Manny about as soon as we had made that decision and that determination, out of respect and a courtesy to him. And then as we started to look forward, we had a Major League staff meeting scheduled today where Manny would have been leading a meeting with all of his coaches, and then we would have also had individual player meetings at the end of the year that Manny also would have participated in, and I didn't feel it was fair to him to have to go through those meetings with this still looming.
Well, all right, with Manny being gone now, what do you do with your coaches? Will they be in those meetings, and will they return next year? Do you know that yet? So
they'll certainly be part of those meetings. I've met with a couple of the coaches already to get their feedback on the season and their thoughts moving forward, most importantly. In terms of next year, that will all depend upon the manager. So right. The way we approach building a staff, we think it's a collaborative effort between the manager and the coaching staff. And ultimately, because the manager is responsible for that group of guys, he has to be comfortable with every one of them.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I feel we have a lot of good people on our staff and certainly some competent staff members, and I think they add value to the organization. But ultimately, we'll have to wait for the manager.
First things first.
Yeah.
And with that, you've already said Sandy Alomar is a candidate for this job. Terry Francona will be a candidate for the job, and you expect others as well?
I do. I mean, we're in the process of working through a list right now. We've spent the better part of the last 24 hours trying to narrow down that list and calling, checking references. But I think in Sandy and Terry, we have 2 outstanding candidates and guys that we feel very confident about. So for others to get in the mix, they have to be very strong candidates for us.
For Chris, for a time frame, is there any you would rather do it sooner than later, wouldn't you, instead of let this thing
that would be our preference. It would be great to get a leader in place and allow us to be able to begin our off season. There's no artificial date. There's no particular time where we've said we have to get something done, but our preference is to do it as quickly as possible.
What will you look for when you interview both Sandy and Terry and whoever, informal interviews? What will you be looking for that will identify in your mind, this is the guy I want to lead the franchise?
I think with each guy it's a little bit different because they have, and those 2 in particular, very different set of experiences. I think the most important thing is how they envision establishing a winning culture and how they, the environment they see in the clubhouse. Those are the things I think that are, essential for a manager's job. It's obviously very important what they do in the game and game strategy and the X's and O's, but both of those guys as well as others have a great feel for that part of it. It's what's their vision for the clubhouse? How can they create a winning environment? How do they connect with players? How do they put players in a position to be successful? Because ultimately their jobs is to lead and inspire a group of 25 guys. And Arch, I know you've been around different guys, and there can be different styles and different ways of doing it, but in some ways you always have to be able to find some way to connect with those guys.
And the bottom line, though, a lot of times it comes down to the players doing it. They're going to get you fired just as well as once you're hired. On your end of it, what do you see for next year because of pitching? What are your needs here? Left field we went through. Third base this year. Pitching. I think starting pitching is number 1.
Well, I think, obviously the way we have played over the last 2 months has been it's been painful. But at the same time, there have been, over the course of the last 2 years, there's still a lot of good things that a lot of the guys on this roster have done. I still think we have a very good nucleus of players.
Nice break there. As Tieford couldn't field the ball cleanly and went to the seat of his pants, and the bases are loaded with nobody out.
Just looking at our position player club, starting up the middle with Santana, Kipnis, Cabrera, Brantley, that's a pretty good place to start building a club. Ed Chisenhall, who's done a very good job, not only tonight, but in the time he's been back at third base, and Chu's one of the better right fielders in the league. That's a pretty good nucleus of players, and the bullpen has been a strength all year, and all of those guys could be back next year. And the starting rotation, is an area clearly we need to try to improve. But I've been encouraged by what I've seen with Zach McAllister and what he's done this year. He's certainly made strides.
How about Kluber? How do you like Kluber?
Kluber's done a good job. I mean, it's taken him a little while to get settled. He has outstanding stuff. I think when we've seen when he's in the strike zone and attacking hitters and working ahead in accounts, he clearly has stuff to be able to get major league hitters out. So he's done a good job. We're going to get Carlos Carrasco back next year, who's going to should be able to be a candidate for that spot. And the early returns on his rehab have been outstanding. He's had a great fastball up to 98, sitting consistently 94, 95 with good secondary.
But the disappointing has been Jimenez this year and Justin. I mean, when you look at those two guys who were supposed to be your front end of the rotation guys, that would be nice to have that could take pressure off everybody else.
We do need, that's one of the big things for us, is we need to figure out a way to get both those guys on track. They have the potential. We've seen it at times this year. It's just, unfortunately that consistency hasn't been there. So I know in each of their cases they've worked hard at it and are looking forward to taking advantage of the winter to come in next year in a better spot.
I'm disappointed I didn't have a year to see Chisenhall play because of the break. He got hit in the arm, and I think this kid has a chance to be very good, but unproven, but it's still a good chance for him to come out and play. Hagedorn, he self-inflicted injury there. Right. He missed a lot of time, his own fault. But guys like that, you desperately need.
Absolutely, guys like that. We expect Cody Allen's come up and done a very good job.
They force at the plate for out number one.
So Cody Allen's come up and done a good job in the bullpen role. Scott Barnes is a guy that we think has a chance to contribute in the Major League bullpen. Ismail Rogers has done very well out there. So we do have some options.
Is a veteran right-handed bat a priority in this offseason? Not that it wasn't last offseason, but
some of it, again, it's depending upon who the alternatives are. But obviously we'd like to get more balance to our lineup, and we'd like to, in some ways, add some power, because that's one of the areas where we've scuffled this year. We've done a pretty good job controlling the strike zone. We've got our share of walks. We're actually striking out at I think we're the third best strikeout rate.
They've done a lot better this year than they have in the past.
Oh, what a leaping catch and a near double play turned by Johnny Giavotella. And Carrera just did beat him back to the bag, 2 down in the inning.
Well, that's good base running to get back. Yes, it was.
Heck of a play, both sides right there for Ezekiel to get back to the bag.
And Vitella's trying to get out of this inning on his own. That's a nice play to get the force at home plate. Now almost gets the double play as he leaps, and he's not that tall, but he used every inch, and that's a terrific play.
That's a great play.
On both sides, even Carrera getting back. That's not an easy play to Your tendency is to lean and go to third base.
And it was close.
Very good.
Bases loaded, 2 down for Jason Kipnis now. And he takes a strike. Let me ask you this with regards to the manager. When you talk to players, because I know you have exit meetings with your players, how much will you consider their input with regards to what they'll tell you about Sandy Alomar?
Well, I certainly respect those guys' opinion and certain members of the team, guys that have been here maybe a little bit longer than some others.
There's a base hit by Kipnis. That's going to score not only Lillibridge but Carrera as well. 2 more for the Indians, and it's now an 8-1 Tribe lead.
So we'll certainly listen to their feedback and input, and I think I have a pretty good feel about what the input will be on Sandy. I know he's universally respected in our clubhouse as he was as a player.
It comes down to it. A lot of talk. We won't be able to sign Chu. What will we do in the offseason? Will we trade him? Will Chris Perez be out of here? And a lot of things going on like that. When you look at the free agent market for outfielders, there's not a lot out there.
Right, that's true.
I mean, so will you have to maybe work something and maybe trade some of your players to get something?
We're going to have to work through some things this winter. We obviously have some decisions to make on different guys, and they could influence the direction we go. But the one thing is, on each of those guys, I think, our job is to listen and to understand how other teams value our players. That's not an atypical process for us, but all of those same guys that have been rumored, that you just mentioned, have been rumored about, whether it's a trade deadline this year or last year, and they're all still Indians. So, again, part of our job is to explore it, but I'm not sitting here with the expectation that we won't have those guys back.
Carlos Santana with 2 on and 2 out.
I like the approach of the left-handers tonight, man. They have a ton of hits.
A lot of hits up the middle.
Yeah, Kipnis, Lillibridge, Carrera has 3. Chisenhall has 3. Chu has a couple of doubles off the wall. His approach has been better against left-handers the last 2 weeks.
It really has been. The quality of our at-bats really over the last 3, 4, 5 games have been much better.
Santana taking a strike. It's 2-1. I'm sure you haven't been thrilled with some of the comments that Chris Perez has made of late. But one thing you have to respect and admire is the guy is passionate, and he really wants nothing more than to win. He wants to be part of a team that has a chance to win the big prize.
That's exactly it. As I think I've said all along with Chris, I think his intentions, they're coming from a well-meaning place. He wants to be part of a winning team. He wants to, he wants to be out there. He wants to not only have a winning team, but have fans come out and support a winning team. And I think that's where the root of his comments come from. Now, I wish he would choose his words a little bit more carefully, but I think they're coming from the right place.
No filter.
I don't know. I don't know if he'll do that.
Right.
Carlos Santana trying to inflict some more damage here with 2 on, 2 out, and the Indians up 8-1. And a swing and a miss ends the inning. Chris, I know it's been a tough couple of days. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate your time.
It, Matt. Thank you very much.
Indians